Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Shadow and Sun Show. And another book review. This time, it is The Pirates of Venus by Edgar Rice Burroughs. Well, I had this book in my collection for decades, literally, before I actually got around to reading it. I just recently read it, I want to say, about 2 months ago, and I'm already into the third book, which is... No, the fourth book, Escape on Venus. I'll go through each one individually in just a second. One thing I really want to touch on real quick is I love these old-timey covers and the old-timey size of these books. They're really kind of, as you can see, they're kind of shorter than some of the newer prints. And by newer, I mean, decades later. Because the original series is pretty old. Not quite as old as John Carter of Mars, but it came out, maybe 10, 20 years afterwards and after Tarzan. And while a lot of people may think, oh, it's just another rewrite of John Carter, it really has a lot of differences and a lot of different twists and turns. And, the science is different. There's no eighth ray and that sort of, weird science that I don't really want to get into. It's really a charming set of books. The first one, if by the time you've read the first one and you get to the very end and you're not in love with it, then there's probably something a little wrong with you, in my opinion. It's really just in so many ways. I'm not going to say it's better than John Carter, because John Carter was, just beyond comparison. It still has enough action and adventure and almost romance, because that is sort of an ongoing theme in all of Edgar Rice Burroughs' books. Even the next book that I'm going to do next week, out of close to 20 books by Edgar Rice Burroughs, he never shies away from trying to tell a good love story, and this is no exception. By the time the main hero is journeyed through this book and into this book, you know exactly, who's who in the love story, and who's who in the way of the heroes and the villains. And while there really aren't too many long-term villains, there are many memorable short-term villains. No epic, bad guy at the very end that has been chasing Carson throughout the books. And that's one thing I really liked about it, is there was no stereotypical super villain waiting until the very last book to for the big boss fight. Each book really has, I want to say, between 3 and 5 different distinct areas, kind of like the Star Wars movies where you had Hoth and Tatooine and Dagobah. Even though it's just one planet, and it's a really weird planet, by the way, folks. It actually has some very interesting terrains to travel through, and obstacles, as well as a lot of weird creatures and monsters and races of peoples that I've yet to see duplicated anywhere. There's none of the stereotypical things that you might expect from other science fiction and fantasy stories. These ones, I'm really surprised other people haven't sort of, mimicked or copied them, in later books. But all in all, there's really just so much action and adventure. And because I am doing a, inspired reading from the Dungeon Master's Guide series here, I definitely want to put these in there. I'm pretty sure they're actually in the Dungeon Master's Guide, because I know John Carter is, maybe it just says Venus and Tarzan. It doesn't go into much more detail, because that section is really kind of lacking a lot of detail. But it gets the point across. If you want some, inspirational reading from the Dungeon Master's Guide, and one of the reasons I'm sticking with all these old classic books is because they really are the beginning of the inspiration for Dungeon Masters. The original Dungeon Masters, Gary Gygax and Dave Arneson being the originals. The books they read really shaped and molded Dungeons and Dragons all the way up until at least second edition of Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. maybe a little further beyond that, but I really didn't, pay much attention to third, fourth, and fifth, as you guys know. I'm trying to dip my toe into some of the more recent editions of Dungeons and Dragons, but every time I do, I just shake my head in disbelief at some of the turns they took while trying to rewrite Dungeons and Dragons. In my opinion, it really wasn't broken even in first or second edition. They really didn't need to make a third and fourth and fifth and eventually a sixth edition. But that's a topic for another time. Needless to say, the Lost on Venus, Carson of Venus, Escape on Venus, all four have been absolutely wonderful reads. Very charming, very, very interesting, very memorable to say the least. And I'm looking forward to getting into The Wizard of Venus because I think it takes place many years after these stories. But I don't want to spoil the surprises for myself. I don't know about you guys, but I really don't like spoilers. And that's why I don't really go into too much detail with these books, other than the fact that they are absolutely worth the read. And at the price, I don't think you're going to really pay maybe more than $25 to get the whole series, which, from my experience, I've been, tempted to pay that much for a single individual book that was missing from my collection. And like I told you guys before, if you're actually looking for books, buy them in lots. Maybe you won't get every book in the lot that you need, but by the end, you'll have spent a lot less money, and you'll probably end up with some extra copies that you can hand down to, friends and relatives and things like that who may be interested. Because remember, as Roger Zelazny was famous for saying, only your friends steal your books, and to circumvent that, just give them your extras if you don't want to eBay them back, into circulation. So until next time, folks, I will see you guys later on this evening. I believe it's Table Breakers or Gatekeepers tonight, starring Max from Legion of Myth. And then I'll see you guys again tomorrow with the little guy as we do part 2 of the John Carter craft for this month. And then, Friday, the usual, hijinks. And I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope to see you guys again real soon. And until then, have a great day. Bye, everybody.